everyone, this is Scribble, and I'm here with my first dramatic reading of Before It Ever Was by Shining Prince Percival. This story has 19 chapters, but they're relatively short, around the 1K to like 2K range. So I think I'm going to just put chapter 1 in its own segment for right now and just combine the others because they get shorter as they go. This is going to be the first in many dramatic readings, and I do have an episode of this fic coming out this Saturday. Quite a long one, actually, to make up for the shorter one we had last week. So, this is Chapter 1 of Before It Ever Was. The Stranger from the Sky. Where am I? Thought a pony. Who am I? Wind whipped at his face. He was falling, and pretty darn high, too. He could see a fuzzy image of the ground rushing to meet him. Instinct took over as his wings unfolded. Too late. He hit the ground with a soft thud. "Ah!" he said as he rolled trowel field. Finally, after several seconds of spinning, he stood up in an apple orchard. Apples are the fruiting buds of the trees it grows in, he suddenly thought. Wait, how did he know this? Ow! Cloughing his head at a sudden pain, he wandered off. After the pain went away, he started to try remembering what had happened. He couldn't seem to remember who he was, or anything at all, but he did remember one thing. Pembroke. Who or what that might be evaded his thoughts. Suddenly, a noise brought him back to reality. It sounded like laying. "Oh, hey!" he thought. He dove for cover under some green things his mind labeled bushes. 2 pairs of hooves walked past where he was hiding. One was purple, and the other was an orange. He heard the words spike, rarity, and diary. This was followed by some giggling. Strange, he thought. From what he heard, the purple one was called Twilight, and the other pony was called Applejack. Applejack, he thought. For some reason, he couldn't stop staring at her. They were headed for a cluster of what he believed to be houses. He decided it may be best to go there. Maybe someone would recognize him, and maybe tell him what Pembroke meant. As he trotted over to the small town, he noticed a Pegasi flying to the cloud before landing on it. Pegasus live in clouds, he suddenly thought again. Their bodies Okay, this is getting spooky. Why am I just getting random thoughts popping in my head? Finally, he reached the town, where he saw the 2 ponies go. He noticed that everyone stared at him. Also, some ponies had wings and some had horns, but none had both like he did. "Oh my gosh, it's Celestia! No, Luna, who is it?" Someone screamed. "It's Celestia's cousin! You know, Prince Bluebud!" yelled another. "Prince?" he asked dumbly. "Isn't he single?" Someone interrupted him. Before he knew what was going on, there was a mob around him. They were all trying to get over to him, except for the one who asked if he was single. She was trying to scoot up next to him. Was this all because he had a horn and wings? "Wait," said someone. "Who is he?" "Is he another single prince?" the pony said again, getting even closer to him as she bat her eyelashes at him. I don't remember," he said blankly. I can't remember anything." "Do you remember if you had a mare friend?" the pony asked again. "Does anyone know who I am?" he asked, ignoring the mare next to him. Everyone either shook their heads or shrugged. He sighed and tried to walk through the mob, but unfortunately, they wouldn't let him, so he just plowed through them. He wondered if anyone did know him, or at the very least could tell him who he was, but he guessed that wasn't going to happen. Why was there a vial over his brain clouding his thoughts? "Wait," someone said, interrupting his thoughts. He turned to see a pink pony trotting over to him. At first he stood uncoordinated, but she seemed friendly enough. "My name is Pinkie Pie," she introduced herself, but stopped short when she saw my horns and wings. Are you friends with Prince Blueblood?" "Who is this prince guy everyone is talking about?" he asked impatiently. Never mind," she said. "Do you plan on staying?" He sighed. "I don't know." "Well, if you do stay, you'll get a party," she said with glee. "Follow me." "Agua," he said as she dragged him away. Who am I? Where am I? Pembroke. At that one word, his mind exploded with thoughts. He saw a dark vortex, a throne made of what appeared to be smoke, another gray alicorn with a darker pony. He was standing in front of the throne, facing the other gray alicorn. Then it smiled at him, like when a young pony does something it knows it wrong. Another dark vortex appeared above it and seemed to engulf him. He screamed. "Arg!" he yelled as he jolted upright. He was in a small apartment that was given to him after the party Pinkie Pie threw him. Well, actually, they dragged him to a library, told him he was something called an alicorn, then showed him how he could hide his horn with magic, but she still acted like it was a party. He stretched and got out of bed. Maybe he would thank her. Where did she live again? After asking for directions, he was led to a place called Sugar Cube Corner. As he walked in, his nose smelled probably the greatest smell in his life. The sweets dazzled his senses, and his stomach grumbled. Suddenly, she appeared from behind the counter. "Hi," she said. He turned to her and said hello as well, but his attention instantly went back to the cakes he had been looking at. His stomach practically screamed for the soft, spongy mass. She noticed this and smiled warmly. "Would you like to sample some?" she asked. He nodded and followed her to the kitchen. There, she set up a small table and began giving him small slices from the sample section of the shelf. Alliteration. Each time he gobbled each one in 1 or 2 bites. Soon the sample section was reduced to crumbs. He burped in satisfaction. She was speechless. He had eaten an entire cake like it was nothing. She thought she was the only pony who could do that. "I don't want to do this," she thought. "But I just..." "Hey!" she said. "Come back later and I'll give you a special treat." He said. He had been busy licking the crumbs off his plate. Later, Prince, he gave himself that name since everyone thought he was one, walked into the bakery. "Hello?" he called. The lights were either off or dimmed. He heard a door open behind him and saw Pinkie standing in a doorway. She waved for him to follow and disappeared into the kitchen. "All right," he thought as he walked into the kitchen. That was strange. Suddenly, he was grabbed from behind. He turned to see it was Pinkie herself, but something seemed wrong. She seemed like she was scared. Why? Suddenly, she shoved him in between her haunches. "What in the..." he tried to say, but was cut off as his face was almost pushed in between her pink thighs. "What are you doing?" he yelled. "I'm sorry," she said. It seemed as though it was forced. Prince struggled with all of his might, but he was simply too weak and lame. Author's note, lame as in out of shape. Suddenly, he got an idea. It was going to suck, but it was the only way. "I'm sorry about this," he said as he grinded his teeth, focusing his thoughts. The pot on the shelf slowly rose in the air and floated over to where they were. He aimed, and then he let it fall on her head. A few minutes later, he stumbled out of Sugar Cube Corner, taking his time to vomit into a bush, and headed into the woods to hide until things in Ponyville cooled down. The forest was beautiful at this time of day. He would make a note to make a jogging trail next time. What was that? He thought as he heard a rustling sound. He turned in the direction of the noise, but saw nothing. Maybe he was still shaky from earlier. Again, he heard it to his left. Nothing. And then he heard the sound of hoofsteps behind him. He turned to see something strange. It looked like a pony, but it had stripes. Who are you?" he asked. Its response was blowing some glittery dust in his face. He recoiled and stumbled back. His eyelids were getting heavy. His sight went fuzzy. "Not again," he said as the ground rushed to meet him. In a dark place, something stirred. Its claws raked the floor, almost as if it was sharpening them. Further away, a form kept its distance from the creatures as it started to awaken. Finally, after it was satisfied at what he had seen, the form moved into another part of space. With a strange luminescence filling this part, one could have seen that it was a pony, but not a regular pony, but a gray alicorn.